Indeed, sentiments there from our neighbors in Tanzania. And this forms our discussion this hour. I'm joined by Professor Gershon K. Ikiara, who was formerly of the University of Nairobi, and will be later hopefully joined by Dr. Kennedy Manyala, who is an economist. But I'm now joined by Professor Gershon. Prof, thank you so much for making time for us here on Bottomline Africa. First of all, the latest move by the Agriculture, or rather the Agriculture and Food Authority, banning or rather stopping maize imports into Kenya from Uganda and Tanzania. Before we get to the reactions from the countries, first of all, your sentiments and your reactions to that as an economist, and what this means for the on matters trade for the two countries.
Well, that's very sad indeed, because the trade among the East African countries is one of the biggest compared with other regions. In other words, each of the country, for instance, for Kenya, Uganda is our biggest trading nation in the world. Tanzania is equally very, very important. Other countries are coming up, Rwanda and Burundi, as very important players in our trade. So it's very, very unfortunate if these trade wars, partly because of politics, or issues related to coronavirus controls, this could have a very, very long-term effects on trade and the overall economies of these countries, especially Kenya, which is a major beneficiary of our trade with East Africa and the rest of Africa.
Prof, this comes as President Uhuru Kenyatta is the chair of the EAC. What do you make of this? You know, the two East African countries, would this be sort of seen as flexing their muscle following the appointment, or rather the taking up of the chairmanship by President Kenyatta?
I don't think so. I don't think our president would want to do that, to be seen flexing muscle on this kind of a sensitive issue. I think the main reason behind it is possibly our different ways of testing and controlling coronavirus, because these countries have not necessarily agreed on the same standards. And that has created fear that if one country is not controlling virus properly, then it can have a major impact in terms of the spread of the coronavirus. The Kenyan president has been, for most of the time, he has been the president as a major promoter of stronger East African trade relations, and indeed the whole of the African Continental Trade Organization. So I think it is simply because of the implementation of these issues, especially on the coronavirus, and the obstacles along the routes, along our trade route, Northern Corridor and the Central Corridor. I think those are the issues that need to be checked out. And it is hoped that the President Kenyatta, if is chairing the South African, the Saveria organization, will use his offices to streamline the rough edges, which is creating this unnecessary and very costly disruption to the regional trade.
Prof, we'll get to how these countries have handled the coronavirus pandemic, and each has had their concerns, especially Tanzania. But these, of course, the trade wars between the three East African countries. You know very well that Kenya's GDP contributes 40% of the region's GDP, Tanzania's 28% of the region's GDP, and Uganda 21% of the EAC GDP. To what extent or impact would these wars have on contribution of Kenya to the GDP in general, and of course now on matters contributing, or rather on matters ensuring that the trade between these countries enhances and Kenya doesn't lose its grip on the strength of the GDP?
No, clearly, if trade is revenue is a major contribution to our, or a major contributor to our GDP. So when trade is adversely affected, especially with our biggest trading nations, our GDP will automatically decline. So we cannot really push our might and say that we can go without any of these countries. They all play a very, very key role. They help in the promotion of our GDP and other parameters. So it is important that all the leaders in the region come together and create an enabling environment for free flow of commodities across the border. And that one, I think, as we have seen, it requires that we have a common, for instance, coronavirus testing method, so that we are not saying that one country is blocking us, trying to use coronavirus pandemic as an excuse. So there must be agreement that these are the standards that are going to be applied in the whole region, and we adhere to them. We are all beneficiaries of it, and we are going to be losers of it if we seriously disrupt this regional trade.
Prof,
like I've told you,
go on.
We have already seen the impact from the global scene when the shutdown was there due to coronavirus. And as I told you, Uganda alone is our biggest trading nation, bigger than Germany, bigger than US, bigger than UK. So when you disrupt that kind of trade and even that of Tanzania, the damage is huge. It will also hurt Tanzania. It will hurt Uganda. We have seen from Rwanda, which has tended to have a more open trade environment. It has benefited a lot in terms of rapid growth. And it shows that even a small country will benefit from open trade within the region.
Indeed, Prof. And this brings to the next topic where I want to engage you on the customs-free union. Remember very well, this is where the EAC partner states agreed to establish a free trade, or rather a zero duty imposed on goods and services amongst themselves. Now, with these trade bans, wouldn't it, rather the ban of the importation of maize from Uganda and Tanzania, or what picture does it paint on the customs union, on the free customs union? Remember that the EAC is working towards establishing that. But if we are seeing that there are bans from, say, Kenya banning goods from Tanzania and Uganda, to what extent do we see, or rather, how tainted will this image of the customs free union be?
I think since the establishment of this East African community, although customs union was seen as a very critical instrument to facilitate free trade in the region, the political leaders, in most of the countries have not really lived up to it. They have not been able to implement the spirit of the customs union. There have always been obstacles here and there, which have poisoned the environment over time, or they have not allowed the full potential of the trade in the region to actually come up. So the customs union must be respected. It is a very good document, but poorly implemented. And the private sector has been very much against this. We have recently done a study with Professor Wango from Tanzania and the other economies from the region. And it's very clear that the private sector is very supportive of free trade. All of them, the South African Business Association and the other organizations, they have been pushing for it, but generally, when it comes to actually implementing it, the spirit has not been there. I used to be the PS for transport in Ministry of Transport in Kenya. And our negotiations in Arusha clearly showed that there was a lot of reluctance, a lot of suspicion, even among the professionals when we were negotiating various issues touching on the economy. So the scenes of this discord go back to when the first East African community disintegrated in a very chaotic manner. And some of the countries have never forgiven others, and they have continued to hold their suspicion and the fears about this African community. So that's an important area, customs union. The document is okay, but the implementation has not received the adequate political attention and support.
Thank you, Prof. I'll now engage Dr. Kennedy Manyala, an economist as well. Thank you, Dr. for joining us on Bottomline Africa. We are discussing the EAC trade wars between the Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, the main East African countries. And we have discussed matters to do with the trade ban, or rather the importation of maize from Uganda and Tanzania. But Dr. What do you make of all these wars, of these, the trade wars between the EAC countries moving forward? Does it precipitate more wars in the future, or is this just one of the, probably as we head towards implementing the EAC free trade area, the customs free trade area in the future?
Thank you very much. It's quite laughable to want to engage on this. I see a lot of issues of sibling rivalry in this, unless we are very specific on the reasons why we have carried out the ban. But even the process leading to a ban within the three East African countries, and by extension the 5 partner states, they are normally established procedures where a partner state could realize that a particular import, in this case, for example, maize, for suppose maize being imported, let's say from Uganda or Tanzania, was contaminated in one way or the other. There are rules laid down in the protocol on how to safeguard the Kenyan consumer's interest. That leeway gives Kenya the opportunity to carry out a ban. In the assumption that was the case, then you would say Kenya acted appropriately in the interest of its citizens. In the interest of its citizens. In the event that there was evidence that the maize was contaminated, there was excess aflatoxin, and so not suitable for human consumption, then Kenya would use the instruments that are in place within the protocol to be able to carry out that safeguard measure.
Dr. It's not the first time we are seeing, the sibling rivalry, as you call it, between Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. But before, when the COVID-19 pandemic struck, we did see Kenya ban flights from Tanzania, and Tanzania also repatriated. Does this set a wrong base, or rather a salty situation, or rather stepping on eggshells, even as you work towards achieving a free customs, a free trade union between Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania? You remember very well that now this also comes, there are reasons that the Agriculture and Food Authority has given for banning the maize, but this increased sibling rivalry wars that we are seeing, will we have a proper base to establish a smooth customs-free union?
In economies where minds are mature, where economic minds are mature, yes, there's free trade, but there are controls and safeguard measures to protect citizens of each respective country that is a member of any free trade area or agreement. I mean, you've thrown in the issue of the flight ban and what have you. That's a little bit far from the maize issue. But at that time, what we remember is that Tanzania was not open in its dealings with COVID-19. And Kenya, as a partner, that there's free movement of persons where we freely move. There was danger for Kenya, especially if Kenya had no doubt about what is happening in Tanzania. And in that case, Kenya would easily take up that position in the assumption that Tanzania was not open in its situation with COVID. So when Kenya did the ban and they are responding, to me, it was in bad taste, because they needed, and you've seen the World Health Organization ask Tanzania to be more open in matters of COVID data and the extent to which the country is affected by COVID. And any country, it will be difficult for them. It will be difficult for them to be able to open up to any country, even within the SADC, which they trade with heavily, to just open up for them, especially if there's no information flow regarding the COVID-19 matters. That is to that extent. But now coming to the issue of trade in cereals like maize and what have you, the protocol has laid down the regulations. Yes, the trade is free, but
Doctor, yeah, okay, fine. Probably as we wind up, thank you. We have had two gentlemen engaging us, or rather speaking to them on matters, the EAC trade wars. That is Professor Gershon K. Ikiara, formerly of the University of Nairobi, and Dr. Kennedy Manyala, an economist who we both spoke to on matters, the EAC trade wars. You're watching Bottomline Africa. We want to take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more.